moments. Every morning, Jack and I look at photos and we just talk about how he felt on those days. And it's fun. It's great to be able to look back and relive moments that were so special.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at SheCanSTEM.com.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we will cover all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane Pelicans, touch on the NOLA Gold. We'll talk about Paul Skeens' Major League Baseball All-Star Game. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. And to break it down for us, one of the best we have in the state, sports director over at WDSU Channel 6 would be Fletcher Mackel. Fletch, welcome to the show. Good to have you, my friend. And before we get started, first of all, you're going to Paris for the Olympics. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, pretty exciting. It's my first time covering an Olympics. My twin brother, who's a news anchor at our station, went to Rio in South Korea. And so appreciative of my bosses for feeling confident enough to send me. So I will be there from before the games, 5 days before, and not coming back until after, so about 22 days in Paris. Not just covering the local athletes like Kristen Nuss and some of the LSU athletes, but it's for all of NBC and our family of stations at the company I work for, Hearst.
Right.
So those 30 stations and NBC affiliates. So, you know, my brother has kind of prepped me on what to do and how it goes. So he said it could be anything, previewing sports, post-game, news items that happen in break, you know, if something pops up there, flavor of the city type stuff, which there's a lot of in Paris, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Is this your first time going to Paris?
Yeah, I've been to London with the Saints, obviously, because they've played there 3 times just in the last 15 years, I guess. But yeah, my first time ever in Paris. Google Translate. Everybody keeps asking me, have I learned French? I have not. I'll be a big Google Translate guy.
You guys have a fantastic show with Channel 6. Talk a bit about it.
Yeah, Game On. Thank you for saying that. Every Sunday night at 11 o'clock. Kind of what happened during the week in sports and what's coming up ahead. This week we've got a one-on-one with Kristen Nuss and Taryn Cloth, the beach volleyball Olympians. So before we all leave for Paris, we're going to have a one-on-one with them. We also have Catherine Terrell, who I know comes on your show from ESPN, coming in and previewing Saints training camp, because my colleague Sharif Ishak will be going to Irvine
Right.
So we'll be all over the place. Kendall Duncan is staying here in New Orleans. Sharif will be in Irvine. I'll be in Paris. And a busy month for us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And of course, folks can follow you on social media how?
X or Twitter
Right.
is kind of my go-to, at Fletcher WDSU.
Let's get started with the Saints.
Okay.
First of all, I want to talk about Jeff Duncan's recent article, again, about an extension of the lease for the Saints. Your thoughts about that, your thoughts on it getting done?
Yeah, I think it's going to get done. Obviously, they had that bump in the road last month where the Saints withheld the payment because I think they felt like they wanted to get it across the finish line. Everything I've been told is that they are very close. I certainly look at it from the Saints' perspective, and they look at a governor, and this is just my opinion, they look at a governor in Jeff Landry who has come in with overwhelming support, and they have made sweeping legislation to a lot of different facets of life and things like that in Louisiana. So I think the Saints look at it and say, you can push our deal across the finish line right now. We want to be here. You want to keep us here. I think from the government standpoint, they look at it and say the lease is till 2030. So most of the other deals that were done with Mike Foster and Mr. Benson when he was still alive in 2000, with Bobby Jindal in the Benson family, they were all done, within a year or two. So I do think from a government standpoint, they say, well, you're locked in for 5 more years, 6 more years. Do we have to get this done? But I think there's a willingness on both sides. From what I have been told, it's probably going to happen, I would assume, before the Super Bowl.
Okay.
You've got the Super Bowl. I think the sides are close. I think they're all on the same page. I think there's some finer points they have to work through. But like Jeff said, I do think that's going to be a legacy move for Gail Benson, for a new long-term deal that will keep the team in some type of what feels like airtight deal here. Hopefully she lives till she's 100.
Sure.
But just in case she doesn't, and even if she does, I think this deal will carry them for another 10 or 20 years in the state of Louisiana.
So 5 already still on the contract. You think it's another 15 years after that, maybe?
No, I think that this one, what
Another
I was
10?
told is that, I think that this is going to go from 25 to 35 with 5 or 10-year rollovers.
Okay.
As Jeff said, I believe in his column. So I think that this one isn't going to be get us to 2030 and we'll go in 10 from there. This one was to 20. It was 2010 through 2025 with a 5-year rollover.
Yeah.
They enacted the rollover. So I think that's where the Saints' point is we're at the end. Like, yes, we rolled it over, but we really, 2025 was the natural expiration date. We should be getting a deal done. And again, I think they are. I think that for people who've covered this, this has gotten ugly at times. I remember in 2000, this was not an easy sell. And but now I think that it's harmonious. Jeff Landry has said all the right things. He wants the Bensons and the Saints and understands the importance of this franchise to the state of Louisiana, New Orleans, big events, what the Dome means. And I think the Saints' willingness to want to be here. There were times 2 decades ago where there were threats and could they move? That talk is all in the past. Like anybody that says anything like that, that's just for social media fodder or things like that. They are all on the same page, and I think they're at the 1-yard line, and I think it's going to get done sooner rather than later.
Let's stay with facilities. Let's talk about the Pelicans and the future of the Smoothie King Center. Will they continue to play there? Will it be an upgraded facility? Will they blow that facility up or build on the same site, or will they go elsewhere? What are your thoughts?
So that's a much different conversation. Obviously, I love the NBA. I think that conversation needs to be more paramount in the next few years. In the LSED, the quasi-government body that oversees the Superdome, the arena, the Shrine on Airline, the facilities for the state, because these are state entities, has a master plan coming. And I am curious because we do have that new River District development, which a new arena in that area close to the convention center would be great. I certainly think you could do a massive revamp on the Smoothie King Center, and my gut tells me that's probably what they're going to do. If you look at Washington, D.C., Ted Leonsis, their owner, flirted with moving to Northern Virginia outside of D.C. They got a deal done. He's putting several $100 million in. D.C. is contributing like $500 million, and in their center, which I think it's still called the Verizon Center, maybe the name has changed, where the Washington Wizards play in the Chinatown area of D.C. is going to get a massive multi-year facelift. I see something like that for the Smoothie King Center, because make no mistake, the Smoothie King Center is going to need a renovation. The Pelicans lease runs through 2029. They also did a rollover from 2024 through 2029. and they do need something. And if that means playing in the Dome for a year, there is a configuration that they used for the most recent Final Four
Right.
where they could probably do the renovation in 1 year. They could also do it like the Superdome, multi-year, another $500 million upgrade. But when you look at the Smoothie King Center, the Dome had 80,000 square feet of ramps.
Right.
There were areas where they could create bunker suites. Look, they can't play baseball in the Dome anymore.
Right.
I remember a time when the lower bowl, the plaza, retracted back.
Right.
And they could make it a baseball or a more multi-use facility.
Yes.
Those days are gone because they've built bunker suites and clubs and things to make it more modern and new.
Sure.
And then obviously the new additions of the suites, the amenities in the concourse area. The Dome had the ability to be retrofitted to become more modern. The Smoothie King Center doesn't. For people that are watching right now, that facility was built, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
Oklahoma City did the same thing. There was no team here. So they built it as a multi-use for concerts, minor league hockey played there. All the seats are in the upper bowl. The lower bowl is where you need more seats, premium seats, more suites. So I'm curious to see if they could do this over multiple years. Can they make it a more modern, financially beneficial for everyone facility over multi-years? Or would they just have to say, hey, look, got to shut it down. For 1 full calendar year, we've got to shut this thing down and you got to play at the Dome for 1 year. But when we finish it, it's going to be more modern. But I think because of the infrastructure they have in place, from electrical, plumbing, everything they have there, parking at the Dome, my gut tells me they're going to use that footprint.
Yes.
And they're going to, in some type of way, modernize the Smoothie King Center in the next 3 to 5 years.
Fletcher, I agree. And when you look at the Dome was built so again you could retrofit it. The arena was not.
Right.
And to your point, so do they blow it up? Do they build a new one? Or do they try to?
Let me say this, I think that's too expensive.
Right.
I think that's off the table. Unless Gail Benson comes and says, hey, the money from the expansion,
right,
we're getting $400 or $500 million.
Sure.
I'm contributing. And even then, you're talking about a facility that would probably be $1 billion. I don't know if lawmakers have an appetite for that right now to just blow it up and build a state-of-the-art, unless she is the majority stakeholder in that, which could happen. Look, LSU's doing something similar where they have a private company coming in to get equity in it, and it's going to be a private-public partnership. There's a lot of things that I am not the most creative person to come up with these type of ideas, but I just think that if the way they've done business regarding the Superdome transcends to or moves to the Smoothie King Center, I certainly think that it'll be more of an upgraded facility than a blow it up and build a new one.
And to your point, that's why I don't think there'll be a new building built on the riverfront.
No, I don't think so.
I just don't. I
Maybe think a minor league soccer stadium that could be used for high school football or different events. But I would love it. I think it's a great idea. And I'm one of these people who talk about, I love moonshots. Like the guy who was talking about NHL in New Orleans a few months ago. It's never going to happen. But if you shoot for the moon, maybe we get a minor league hockey team at a redone municipal auditorium or at a redone Smoothie King Center or at another venue same with like soccer. People talking about MLS. It's like, look, MLS is out of the scope right now because there's too many other cities that would jump us. But having a USL team would be fantastic. So I love talking about new buildings and what could be, because I think we need that to push our city forward and not fall behind. The Dome is now a fantastic facility that's going to host a Super Bowl, that should host another college football national championship, maybe another Final Four. I think the Smoothie King Center, and again, not immediately. It's not like it's falling apart. No. It's not.
But the commission did say there needs to be upgrades to that facility.
But let me say this. There's a lot of buildings that fall into that scope. The arena in Phoenix, the arena in Portland. I covered playoff games in the Moda Center. These buildings are older or of the same time frame. The Target Center in Minneapolis, they are all late 90s, early 2000 builds that are going to need renovations or new arenas. And so it's not New Orleans by themselves. There's a handful of teams that are in that grouping.
And of course, staying on that footprint, I think would be smart for the city, smart for the state, and smart for the teams as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you've got a great location that works, that's walkable. Look, I love that location down by the convention center, but I think you could have a breathtaking new facility if it's done the right way. And I think it could be done the right way. And I think people understand that this building, it started in 2019 with John Bell and the Bensons, the state, the city. It was, hey, we need to do this. In 450, now it's ballooned, I think, to almost 600 million over 5 years. I think the Smoothie King Center is in line, be it in one shot all at once or over a couple of years.
And it makes sense to play in the Dome, whether it's 1 or 2 years. It's right there. Again, we've seen the Jazz used to play there. The configuration is totally different than it was back then.
Yeah, well, just so you know, so when the Final Four came here, because all these football stadiums that had Final Fours, they were all unique. Well, now the NCAA has got a company that basically builds an NBA arena, a 20,000 seat lower bowl in the center, and then they sell out the tickets around it, which is great. The Pelicans could easily do that for 1 year. You have the design. They've showed it can happen. So I think for 1 year now again, it would affect some other events in the Superdome, but knowing you're getting another new venue online, I think is worth it.
I would agree. Let's talk some Saints going out to Irvine, California for training camp. Your thoughts on that first?
I mean, look, it had to be done. Talking about construction, I did the tour when the Saints back in, I believe it was May. It's a $12 million upgrade to their facility that they're having, and they're even doing for the Pelicans as well. The Pelicans, had to have practices at Tulane University for Summer League and couldn't have any media out there before they went to Vegas.
And they're starting in Nashville, right, with their training camp?
Potentially. I haven't heard that, but I know they did that Willie Green's first year, kind of secluded themselves in Nashville for about a week to have some team building type stuff and kind of seclude themselves from everybody else. Look, the Saints went out to Costa Mesa 4 times over 5 years. They went 3 straight in 17, 18, 19, and they went back to Costa Mesa last year in 2023. And the weather out there is great. There's multiple teams out in Southern California with the Rams and the Chargers and other teams that are in close proximity. They're going to have joint workouts against the 49ers this year, who are a quick flight down from the Bay Area. So I think it's an easy fit to go out to UC Irvine. Not the same place, but it would be, just for people that are watching right now, Irvine and Costa Mesa are right next to each other. It's like Metairie and New Orleans. So they're going out to Orange County and are going to have obviously 20 plus days of workouts out there. Dennis Lauscha was very, immediate when he said, this is a 1 year deal. This isn't a multi-year deal. This isn't the Greenbrier where they signed a 3-year deal. And we knew for 3 years they were going there. Jackson, Mississippi, same thing after Katrina. It was about being one with the Gulf Coast and appreciating the people of Mississippi and going there. This is a 1 year deal. And one of the other journalists asked, even if you guys win the Super Bowl this year, we're all kind of superstitious creatures of habit. If you win the Super Bowl, is it going to be like, well, we got to go back to where it all started? And he said, no, to be honest with you, we want to be with our fans. We're doing a $12 million renovation on our facility. This is where we want to be. So I'm fine with it. I hate that fans can't see the free practices, but I think the Saints are very self-aware and understand we got to do something. If you've been out there, it's a construction site, and they can't have 190 players and 25 coaches and training staff. They just can't right now. So I understand it.
Well, and also again, I think for the team, for team building, camaraderie. This is an organization that's maybe, again, the coach staff a little bit on the hot seat here. Get away, seclude yourself, and concentrate on football.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a byproduct of it. I think this was happening even if Dennis would have gone 12-5 last year and won a playoff game. I don't think that has anything to do with the renovation that they are doing on their facility. I mean, look, they opened this facility in 2003. This is the first time they've done a renovation on the kitchen, which they didn't get a favorable grade about the kitchen and the cafeteria, and I think they are cognizant of that. Even though that's not the reason why they're doing this, I certainly think it's an arms race. We talk about it in college sports, but in professional sports, I just saw, look, the Chargers were at a municipal facility, the Jack Hammett Sports Complex. I went out there in 17, 18, 19. It would be like practicing at Tad Gormley Stadium in City Park. Now the Chargers facility, you look at it in El Segundo, and it's mind-blowing how amazing it is. So I think for the Saints, this is a natural evolution, upgrade, and that means we have to relocate for a time being. And then look, I was told that if the Dome would have been done, they may have just had training camp in the Dome. But they can't have it there because it's under construction. So that wasn't an option. But that was, so I think that Dennis being potentially on the hot seat, the team having 3 non-playoff seasons, and them getting away to have more team building, like I said, with the Pelicans, camaraderie, seclusion is a byproduct, and probably a good byproduct of construction at the Dome and at their facility.
One of the big talking points going into camp is, again, the future of Alvin Kamara. Will they guarantee the 2025 contract? Will they allow this thing to play out? What's your gut?
My gut tells me they find a resolution and they both give a little bit. Look, I think Alvin Kamara is one of the backbones of the second wave, so to say, of Drew Brees, Sean Payton. I mean, that class that got here in 17 is one of the best in NFL history. What he has done is amazing. He's, an electric playmaker. I see it from both sides. Christian McCaffrey had some injuries, and he played on some bad teams in Carolina, and they sent him away for like 3 second-round draft picks. He's had a resurrection in San Francisco with an amazing, I think, Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan are the two best coaches in the NFL. So I think Shanahan is just with Andy Reid in a class that is different than everybody else. I think Sean Payton's there, but he's got to kind of prove it again with the Broncos. But getting out there reinvigorated Christian McCaffrey, and he's fantastic. I think that Alvin Kamara, coming off his least productive NFL season, it's a tough time to say, believe in me, you know what I can do. And that's a lot of money. And I don't think he was ever going to see it. I don't think they ever had any intention with the way they structured his contract, that balloon payment of $22.5 million. They were always going to restructure it. Even if he was having great seasons, they were always going to restructure. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is the highest paid running back ever at $19 million. Alvin was never going to see that money next year. It was always going to be redone. My gut tells me the Saints went to him and have talked about, hey, let's do a deal. Let's get you to 2 years, but it's got to be maybe more team-friendly for us. And he's not willing to cross that bridge just yet. I do think before the dust settles and the regular season starts, even if he misses a week or so of training camp, they will find some common ground to get in. Look, and if he has a breakout year in Kubiak's offense, then he probably left some money on the table, and the Saints get a deal. If this is the beginning of the end and he's going the wrong way and the Kubiak offense doesn't click for everybody, then the Saints are on the hook for a big number next year too. So again, there's risk and reward for both of these sides, but I do think at the end of the day they probably compromise and get something done.
Well, you watched him play. Do you think he's a declining player? Or do you think it was a byproduct of maybe frustration last year, offense, everything that went down, the suspension?
Yeah, look, I'll say this. I can spin it both ways. I've had former NFL players and people that I trust tell me he's not as slippery as he used to be. He doesn't make people miss anymore. But then I've also had people point out to me that when Derek Carr takes it, checks it down to him, throw it to Alvin and pray, even though 4 guys are converging on him, how slippery can he be? So again, I think you can spin it from both ways. I think you can look at the film. I do think there were times last year that you looked at the film and people pointed out to me, maybe he's not like what he was. But then there were moments where you did see, boy, oh boy, he's still the guy. They have just got to come up with a better game plan and utilize him in a more creative way to get the best out of a very good player. So I go back and forth. I am not in a school of he's a great player. Kubiak's going to bring the best out of him. If Carr can be a dude, Kamara's going to be great again. I'm not there, but I'm also not he's washed. He's a 29-year-old running back. He'll never be great again, because I heard the same thing about Christian McCaffrey. And again, I hate to say I'm playing politics here, but I'm staying in the middle because I think both things, I don't know which way to go just yet.
My take is he will excel in this offense. You look at him in the NFL, you could say running back dog years, okay, in terms of, again, the punishment they take. But remember, he didn't get a lot of carries in college, okay, splitting between, again, Alabama and Tennessee. So I think, again, we're given the opportunity, if this offensive line can hold up and Carr can play well this year, he's going to excel. I just think this offense is tailor-made for him, and I think we'll see a lot about what happened with McCaffrey that will happen with Kamara if given the opportunity, if he's healthy.
Look, if everything breaks the right way, yes. You say we got Kubiak from San Francisco. Even if it's a trickle-down effect, even if we're not San Francisco, we've got the guy to come up with the game plan to put these people in. If the offensive line, if Carr. There's just a lot of ifs. I mean, there's a lot. Look, James Hurst is now at WDSU. We signed him up. He was playing offensive line. He said last year he felt like the offensive line failed Derek Carr in the offense because as a unit, it took them so long to get together. He goes, I think we got it together. And late in the season, you saw the best version of us, but it took a long time, and it really hurt us, and it led to a lot of frustration. there's 3 new guys that are going to be starting. I mean, Penning, Fuaga, and Saldivari are probably going to be starters. I mean, look, you still got Cesar Ruiz coming off the least productive year of his career. That's a lot of ifs.
Right.
Like, is Derek Carr, I've heard this for Derek Carr for years and years and years. This coach, this coordinator, I mean, just being around a stable organization and out of kind of the joke that is the Raiders was supposed to bring him calm and comfort and success, and it didn't. There's just a lot of ifs. So again, I see it. I see it all breaking right for the Saints. I also could talk myself into, look, we're romanticizing something and sprinkling fairy dust on something that may not happen.
You mentioned offensive line. You mentioned Penning. You mentioned Saldivari. They bring in Udo. They bring in Patrick. They bring in Lemieux. They bring in Heron. You believe that, the draft picks will be the starters this year on that offensive line, or that these veterans that they're bringing in, now that they'll put pads on and they'll start hitting, that again, maybe the cream will come to the top there?
Well, I certainly think the Saints believe the cream is the guys they've invested high round draft picks on.
Right.
And traded. I mean, they traded up for Saldivari.
Right.
They drafted Penning in the first round. They drafted
traded up for Penning too, right?
Right. That's what I mean. So
right.
I think they hope the cream is the high value draft picks. And I'll say this: going back to 2017, I remember the Saints defense was always the Achilles heel.
Right.
Breeze and Peyton, you need a coach to draw up a game plan and a quarterback to execute it. They're top 3. They're amazing. They know it. They invested a lot when you think about it. I mean, Kenny Vaccaro, Sheldon Rankins. The list goes on and on and on. Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, there was a time when you looked at their defense and go, man, oh man, every one of these dudes is a first or second round draft pick. At some point, it's got to break for us, or we're just never going to be good. And what we've done from an executive perspective is bad decision making. It broke right. The guys they invested in, it started to work. The defense started to play great. Dennis Allen had dudes that became dudes to match the offense, and they were really good from 17 to 20. At a certain point with this offense, I feel like Penning's got to be okay. Even if he's not great, he's got to be a starter. He's got to be okay. Like Cesar Ruiz, he may never be great. He's a solid starter. Like, you need Fuaga to be good. Saldivari, people forget, they traded up in the 3rd or 4th round to get to get him.
Right.
And he was a do-it-all stud at Old Dominion. You want him to be the guy. I think the veterans they brought in are certainly, because they've been there, done that. They've had roles on teams before.
They know the system.
And it's right. Some of them from Minnesota have played with Kubiak before. But I don't think they brought them in here to, as you said, be the cream that rises to the top. They are insurance in case the misses of the draft, continue to be prevalent.
Let's take a break right here. We'll hear from our underwriters. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation about the New Orleans Saints. We'll get into the Pelicans. We'll talk about LSU and Tulane football. We'll talk about the NOLA Gold. They got a playoff game this weekend. And also, Paul Skeen is starting in the Major League All-Star game. We'll talk about that as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Fletcher Mackel, Sports Director at Channel 6 Sports, is our guest. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Fletcher Mackel, Sports Director at Channel 6, is our guest. Fletcher, let's talk about Derek Carr. Let's talk about the quarterback room as a whole. In minicamp, it was Derek Carr, Haener, and Rattler. Peterman was the 4th-string quarterback. Do you think that is how we'll see going into the season? They'll start with again, 2 players backing up Derek Carr that have no NFL experience?
Yep. Jake Haener looked amazing. And again, it's just practice. I do think there's a world in which Nathan Peterman could be on the roster, but this is the problem. Spencer Rattler, look, social media was crazy. People were talking about he's the next guy. It's like he looked terrible most days. Now, let me say this. Watching him throw, he can spin it. Like, you see the arm talent there, but you saw a guy who the speed of the NFL and kind of the gunslinger mentality bit him a lot.
Right.
And Jake Haener was leaps and bounds better than Spencer Rattler. And you can see that development from year 1 to year 2. So I think we're going into the season. Carr's obviously the guy. They're ride or die with him. They've made that clear.
Right, of course.
Haener, I think, is the backup. I think and again, I'm not anointing him right now, because Nathan Peterman's a guy who's been in the league, even though he's only got like 5 starts.
Yeah.
He's been around. He's played with Carr with the Raiders. He knows, Derek Carr and being in that room. But my gut tells me, barring something crazy happening, Carr's the guy, Haener's his backup. Spencer Rattler's going to be the emergency third quarterback. Because I think if they cut him, they may not get him to the practice squad. There may be a team that says, you know what? He shouldn't have gone. He shouldn't have been there when the Saints drafted him.
Right.
Let's put him on our let's keep him on our active roster as our third guy. You know, I mean, Ian Book didn't make it to the Saints practice squad, and he was terrible in training camp.
Right.
And the Eagles still picked him up, and he got a ring because he was a backup. And I think Peterman. So last year, Nathan Peterman was on the practice squad with the Chicago Bears because they had Tyson Bagent, a young guy that they signed as an undrafted player, but he was so good, I think they thought if we cut him, he's not getting to the practice squad. Nathan Peterman's getting to the practice squad. He's just a guy that nobody's going to claim. So I think you're going to see Carr's the 1, Haener's the 2, Spencer Rattler, the emergency third-string quarterback that all teams can carry now.
Yes.
Peterman will be on the practice squad, and if something happens, Peterman can come up from the practice squad during the season. But that's what I think they're going to go in with.
Right. Let's talk tight end with Juwan Johnson down. Do you think they add another tight end, or they go what they have right now in training camp?
My gut tells me they're going to go with what they have. I just saw Juwan Johnson recently, and he still had the walking boot.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Catherine Terrell. He talked to us. We were out with some friends having dinner, a big group, and he said, he's making progress. He feels good. He thinks he'll be ready for around the start of the season.
Okay.
So again, but is he ready to play at the start of the season? And he's been a valuable weapon for this team and a kind of a go-to guy for Derek Carr. Foster Moreau to me is as rock solid as it gets.
Agreed.
Is a blocker, is a solid receiver, even though he's not going to be a guy that makes these spectacular plays down the field. I think Taysom they used all over. I mean, just like Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco. I mean, he's going to play fullback. He was playing halfback. He was lined up in the slot. He was lined up everywhere. So I certainly think you're going to see a big dose of Taysom. And look, Dallin Holker is an undrafted player. That is going to be one of the darlings of training camp, I think. He was a one-man wrecking ball at Colorado State. If anybody stayed up late and watched that Colorado State game, he was just awesome. And a guy who, the fact that he went undrafted is a little bit mind-blowing. But I think he's somebody to keep an eye on because he can make this team and have a role right away. Now, again, the Saints signed, I think, a guy from, is it the UFL now? So I think that there could be young players or veteran players they look at, but I think they're going to be okay going into the season with what they have if Holker is kind of a guy.
On defense, my real concern is the nose tackle position. What is your concern, if you have any, on defense?
The age, maybe?
Okay.
And again, I think Cam Jordan, it's amazing. I referenced James Hurst. James Hurst goes, I played 10 years in the NFL and got out unscathed. But I was a backup player, even though I ended up starting a lot in New Orleans. He goes, what Cam has done in the trenches for 13 full years going on 14 is pretty remarkable that he stayed that healthy. Cam's coming off a pretty unproductive year. Was it just the foot injury he was dealing with? Is he going to bounce back and defy the odds and show that age doesn't matter and he's still as productive as ever? Do they have another defensive end that they really believe in? Is Chase Young going to be back from injury and be a guy that can be productive? Is Peyton Turner ever going to step up? Is Isaiah Foskey going to be a guy? But more so the age of Cam, DeMario, Tyron. They were really good last year. I mean, DeMario was an all-pro at 35 years old. Tyron has been, since the second half of his first year here and into last year, has been super productive. But you're talking about guys in their 30s. I mean, are they still going to be able to compete at that high level like we've seen them? Because at some point, look, I love Peyton Manning. I've been friends with the Mannings forever. Peyton went from being an MVP. I mean, at 39 or 40 years old, Derek Jeter, Kobe Bryant, Peyton Manning, it goes quick when it goes for elite athletes. And so that does concern me a little bit that some of their key cogs are older. Now, look, Brian Brzee could step up, certainly.
Right.
I mentioned Peyton Turner. I mean, we could certainly see Pete Werner have a breakout season. They obviously added a linebacker
Really gay.
with some serious Super Bowl pedigree who could have really push Werner and maybe, move him away. But I just look at it and say they've been relying on some aging players, and they've been the backbone. Can they continue at that level?
Let's talk Pelicans. Pelicans in Summer League right now. They make the trade to bring in Murray. First of all, your thoughts on that trade?
Yeah, I like it. Look, I like Dyson Daniels. I don't necessarily love giving up Dyson Daniels,
Right.
but Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels are eerily similar. And I do think it's hard to play both of them if you're going to be playing Herb. He just made first team all defense. His shot has come around. Dyson Daniels may be long-term a better defender than Herb, and that's saying something. In his offense may come around, but I don't know how you play both of them, and I think that's the problem Willie fell into, head coach Willie Green fell into, is how do you play both these guys? So you got to give something to get something. I think DeJounte Murray is a really good player. He plays all the time, which has been a huge issue for Pelican star players. He's really good with the ball in his hands as the lead point guard. His numbers when Trae Young was out last year are fantastic. So I think as an organizer and as a leader, he's a solid fit here. I still think there's massive questions, though, about this roster because if Brandon Ingram is back, that means you've got C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. You got too many wings. Where do the minutes come from? Like, can they really play small and fast? If Daniel Tice is their starter and plays 15 minutes a night, like, I get it, but you need, Shamit Dua, who does some work with us at who's fantastic.
Yes.
He talked about the only two recent small ball teams that were any good. One of them was the Houston Rockets, and Harden was a back-to-back MVP. And they made it to the Western Conference Finals playing P.J. Tucker with Mike D'Antoni. But you had one guy who they weaponized as a scorer and built everything around him to play small and fast, and he won back-to-back MVP awards in James Harden. You got a hard time finding teams that have gone that small. Golden State's death lineup is not the norm. What they did is not the norm.
Right.
And shouldn't be duplicated. So, again, I'm just curious to see how Willie makes this work if Brandon Ingram is not traded for a big man.
Right, and I'm with you there. I'd love to see Brandon Ingram stay. I don't know how it works, again, because you still need a center. Right now you're a donut. You got a big hole in the middle with, again, Tice. You mentioned Tice. Misi, again, who, again, is, we'll
He's been playing basketball for 3 years. He's a rookie.
Right, he's going to be
and Carlo Makovich. Right. I mean, you got two guys on your roster that have never played a minute in the NBA, ever. One started playing basketball 3 years ago. One's nenever played an NBA game.
Right.
And Daniel Tice is a solid veteran backup. He's solid as they get. But he's never been a full-time starter.
True.
Right. And so I get it. Like when David Griffin, I still think this is all posturing. I still think there's a deal coming for Brandon Ingram. Be it with the Cavs for Jared Allen.
All right.
Be it with Utah for Walker Kessler and John Collins. They're getting like Markkanen. But I still think there's a deal out there. I mean, maybe Portland, but I still just don't know if they know what
Portland
they're doing.
for Robert Williams?
Maybe, but here's the thing with Portland, okay? Portland right now wants to be bad.
Right.
Like they tore it down to the ground, okay? They drafted young. They have Shaden Sharp. They drafted Scoot Henderson last year. They just drafted Donovan Clingan. They've got DeAndre Ayton sitting there. They've got Robert Williams sitting there. They got three centers, one who's a top 10 pick, and two more that can play. But if you send Brandon Ingram to them, that's gonna cost them. That's gonna make them win too many games.
Right.
So
how about CJ going back?
Yeah, maybe CJ goes back as a veteran leader for DeAndre Ayton. Sure, I just don't know if they're there yet. And I think for the Pelicans, I get it. It's a win now business.
Right.
I would feel bad if they trade CJ McCollum. Because the one guy who's done everything they've said, he changed his shot profile last year. He bought in.
Right.
Brandon Ingram didn't. CJ McCollum has been the leader you needed to make Zion a veteran. He's changed his game to do everything you said. And now you're going to send him to a team that's rebuilding to go be their veteran leader. I do feel like wow, that's tough. That's cold-blooded right there.
Right.
And again, David Griffin can make cold-blooded moves. He has normally not done that. He has normally sent Drew Holiday to a place to win a championship.
Yes.
He has normally tried to work with guys to not do them wrong, so to say. So I'm just curious. I still think Brandon Ingram goes for a big before training camp.
Okay.
We'll see.
Do you see a scenario where, again, they give him maybe a 2-year deal, maybe with a player option in that second year, and that way, again, they have him under contract so it's easier to trade him?
Yeah, but he and his camp, I have been told repeatedly, are extremely reluctant to do that.
They want the $52 million.
Yes, and here's the thing. And again, and this is the problem, though, because everybody says it's so black and white. Scott Kushner put up a great tweet. He's under contract. Show up and play and earn it. Which I don't disagree with.
Right.
They made Brandon Ingram do that. In 2019, Brandon Ingram, they did not agree to the rookie max extension. The Pelicans got him. Ingram in his camp said, you know what? We're going to play it out. He made the All-Star team. He was the most improved player. He easily got his full rookie scale max deal. Now, though, the problem with not extending him before the season is you're basically telling him, go earn it. And that makes a guy play hero ball a little bit. If he didn't buy in last year, is he going to buy in this year? Or is he going to be like, I'm the dude, figure it out, everybody else? And then you start running into locker room dynamics, team dynamics. I mean, we saw him sulk a little bit on the bench in the Oklahoma City.
But he's got something to prove, right? I mean, again,
yeah,
for
he's
the
got
rest of
something
the
to
NBA.
prove. But here's the thing. Last year, he knew he could do all this. He could have signed an extension last year.
Right.
Last year, I was told, he and his camp said, we're looking at Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown bet on himself, made an All-Star team, made All-NBA, clicked into a $300 million extension. Ingram didn't take an extension last year. And now, it was bad with Team USA. It was unproductive this year. It was bad in the playoffs. He bet on himself, and it didn't work out. So now I feel like he should say, hey, I've got to take the team deal. I need to take the team-friendly, shorter deal. But if he wants to say, no, this is the year it works out for me, maybe it does. Maybe he's going to be all NBA. Maybe it's going to work out. But as he tries to attain an individual honor, does it fit in with the team dynamic? Is he taking the ball away from Zion, CJ, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray? Like, is he going to be, hey, I'm the army of one, and I got to do me, and let's figure it out, people? Because that doesn't really work. You know what I mean? So they're in a tough spot. Trading him is, to be honest with you, the best option. It fleshes out the roster. I could see pieces fall. And not to say that they need to flesh out the roster because they got talent. Make no mistake. They're going to win a lot of games because they can out-talent people. They can stagger minutes, and they won 49 games last year, and Zion and B.I. were a negative together because Willie could stagger their minutes. They've got too much talent to not be good. But to be able to win a playoff series, to be great, they need everybody buying in on the same page. And if Brandon Ingram is not either gone or on a contract extension, I don't know if everybody's buying in. Like, is CJ going to accept the bench role? Would Willie bench his precious Herb? You know what I mean? Is Trey Murphy, who's going to get like $27 million a year and was probably expecting to slide into BI's role or at least be a super six man, he's now going to be 7 or 8. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's so many risks that come with doing what they're doing now, and maybe it works out.
But you can't give him away.
No, you don't give him away. You don't give him away. And that's a hard thing. Is you can't just, he's not a sunk cost yet where you just say, get rid of him. Get rid of him. Like, you need to get Walker Kessler and John Collins back. You need to get Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen back. Or you need to get DeAndre Ayton back. You need a real bona fide player because B.I. is a bona fide 20-a-night guy. It's just the fit, the dynamics, the locker room lawyering, everything that goes into it with what they are now. And again, like the Saints, it could all break the right way where they play small and fast and they become the 2018 or 2018 Houston Rockets that made it all the way to the finals playing small and fast in that D'Antoni system. But if it breaks wrong, you're going to have disgruntled guys, maybe backdooring for trades out. It could break the wrong way and be ugly.
I want to shift gears here, just quickly touch on 2 subjects. First on Nola Gold, first playoff game this Sunday. 5:30 over at the Shrine on Airline. Your thoughts on this team? I know you've interviewed some of the guys out there, and of course their chances in this playoff of moving on.
Yeah. So look, if you haven't supported the Nola Gold, you should. They've got great ownership, great leadership. What they're doing is really good. Like, they have built something here, I feel like, organically. Major League Rugby started, they got in at the ground floor, and they do the right things in the community the right way with the right people. And so I'm not going to sit here and act as if I've become some rugby aficionado, because I have not.
Right.
I never played rugby, and we cover it more now because they're good.
Yeah, because they're good.
Right.
Same thing.
And I enjoy watching it. Like, I watch the games, and I enjoy watching them. So I think I see a good team, you know, especially they already beat the Chicago Hounds. That's the team they're playing this Sunday at 5 or 5:15 p.m.
5:30 is what
5:30, yeah.
Right.
So I think they can make a run, and it would be a great story. Like, you know, they came online in 17 or 18, and they've never made the playoffs. So it's a historic season for them. We've been giving them a lot of coverage, as has all the local media, deservingly. I hope they make a run, and we are continuing to cover them the rest of this summer.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do. And of course, again, look, they made the moves to put them in this position, and hopefully, again, we'll see them move on. Paul Skeens, you're a pitcher. You still pitch today.
Okay. Yeah. Just so people know what you're referencing, I played high school baseball, and then
you played at Loyola.
Correct. I played for Delgado first with Joe Sherman, winningest coach in the state of Louisiana. Then at Loyola, and I still play in an over 35 baseball league. And I still apologize if I kind of run a fastball up and in on a right-hander and hit somebody. I apologize.
All right, Skeen has had at least 2 games where he was very close to a no-hitter and was pulled. Your thoughts first.
Look, I get it. It's one of the things I don't love about baseball right now, because I think that he is in shape, trained and ready to go. I am a pitch count person who squawks on social media. Sometimes I see these people that don't know anything about baseball, and they say, like, that sounds dangerous. It's not dangerous late in the season. When Paul Skeens threw 120 pitches in the heat against Tulane in a regional, he was fine. He was great. If a guy comes out in February in his first start and throws 120 pitches, I got a problem with that. Jay Johnson does a great job. Most colleges do a great job. We saw this year, the first few weeks, they are building up 60, 80, 100. But guys get into a routine. You know, college pitchers late into the season are fine throwing 100-plus pitches, just like Skeens was in the World Series against Wake Forest to get him to the championship against I forgot the kid with the long hair for Wake Forest. It was an amazing matchup. Laura, I think it was his name. In the major leagues, it's different, because I think that they're looking at him as an eventual 200-inning workhorse, that he's a guy that is going to pitch an entire season for a long time. And you want him to be Justin Verlander. You want him to be Max Scherzer. You want that ace. So I do think in year 1, they are going to be super protective. Steven Strasburg in the Nationals, I think it was 2011, took a lot of heat. People that remember Steven Strasburg, very similar to Skeens. Big right-hander, star at San Diego State, ascended quickly to the major leagues. He gets to the Nationals. I think Davey Johnson was the manager, and they said, he's got a limit, and we don't care where he is. We are looking at this guy as a long-term investment. And they made it to the playoffs, and they shut him down. And people were up in arms because they said, you got a chance to maybe win the World Series, and you're shutting him down. And they said, we made this decision in May. I think they've decided, we're not putting a cap on his innings, but we're going to monitor him closely. That we get it, a no-hitter's a no-hitter. But he was at 190 or 100 pitches, and I think they have set a number of, he's a phenom. He's starting the All-Star game. He's amazing. He's got electric stuff. He is taking the major leagues by storm. But we have got to think 25, 26, 27, 28. We don't, like, why burn him now? And so I get it, and sometimes I don't agree with it, because what would be 20 more pitches? But I do understand what they're doing to protect him long term.
Major League Baseball, as we're taping this, again, the Major League Baseball All-Star game is tonight. He will be the starter for the National League. Your thoughts?
It's a smart move by Major League Baseball. I mean, look, Major League Baseball has finally got with it. I remember a time, and I'm sure you do too, baseball was king of kings.
Oh, yeah.
Football and basketball were second and third. The NFL has become the king of kings. The NFL is America's pastime. NBA has jumped so far past Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball is now the third-tier sport in North America. because I think it's slow. I think you got to get, and I play baseball, and I say it's slow. It's hard for people to get into it when they want to see the fast-paced football, basketball. I think speeding the games up with the pitch clock was smart. I think having Skeens and your stars at the forefront is smart. So I think it's a great move by Major League Baseball to get your stars at the forefront right now.
All right, let's shift to college football. LSU, Tulane. A lot of people out there think that both teams have a chance to be in the expanded playoff format this year. Let's take LSU first. Your thoughts?
I'll just say this right now. I think both are going to the playoffs.
Okay.
Like, I think both are. I can answer your question quickly. I think both are going. I think that LSU, I just think they're really good. I think they were really good last year, and their defense let them down. They were a playoff team last year, and their defense let them down. I think they shored up some areas, and I think Nussmeier's going to be, even if he's not a Heisman winner like Jaden Daniels, he's going to be really good. And I think Brian Kelly's an elite coach. I think LSU, when the dust settles, is going to finish in the top 12. I think Tulane, now that SMU's gone, is going to win their conference. I mean, I think, literally, I think to say that John Sumrall is a grand slam hire, my concern is he's going to be a one and done. Yeah. That they're going to win the conference. They're going to get into the playoffs. They may win a playoff game.
Right.
And then Florida or Kentucky somebody's going to come get him and write Tulane like a $5 million check. But I think Tulane's going to win their conference now that, I mean, when you think about it, Central Florida, Houston, Cincinnati left a year ago. SMU leaves this year. Tulane was on par with those teams.
Right.
It's Tulane and San Antonio now. I'm not saying another team can't rise up, you know, but those were the teams, to me, that are going to win the conference. It's going to be Tulane or San Antonio, and I think the winner's going to the college football playoff. So I think Tulane and LSU. I'm not saying LSU is going to win the SEC, because I think Georgia's good. I think Texas is good. I still think Ole Miss is really good. I still don't know what Bama is without Nick Saban, but I think DeBoer is a really good coach. But I think LSU is going to be one of those final 12, and I think that Tulane wins their conference and gets in.
My concern is the defensive line for LSU, specifically on the interior of the defensive line. If you have concerns with the Tiger team, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the defense as a whole, last year I felt like, man, oh man, this was a historically good offense that did things that we hadn't seen since Joe Burrow in 19. But the defense was not historically bad, but really bad. So I would look at, like, multiple areas. Like, I think their secondary last year was insanely weak. They got a couple of transfers. We thought they were going to be good. Florida State exposed them immediately. But I certainly think, look, Mason Smith is gone. He was a guy who never quite, I think he's going to be like the Neil Hunter, a better pro than he was in college. I think they've addressed some needs. But again, I just look at the defense more as a whole than I say it's the line, it's the secondary. I just think that defense as a whole, and I certainly think Harold Perkins may be moving back to a traditional role, another year of seasoning for him. I think he has a chance to be a really elite player and kind of maybe galvanize everybody around him and lift them up. So we'll see. But yeah, I still think, and look, they lost 2 elite wide receivers. But I think they have proven.
They're stacked.
That's what I mean. Like, I have no concerns about the offense. Crazy. And people are like, Nussmeier, I'm like, I've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm all in on Nuss. Like, I believe it. Even if he's not the Heisman winner, he's going to be really good.
There's so much talent around
That's what I mean. And I think their O-line, with some of the seasoned guys, they have, like, that's what I mean. So I just think the entire defense, to me, I look at and go, okay, like, new coordinator, who I like, who I think is a really good coach. Again, as a whole, I don't know if I want to single out one group. As a whole, they were so bad and cost them last year. They just need to play better.
Yeah, I would agree. From Tulane's standpoint, one of the big question marks going into camp for them is who will be their quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's Ty Thompson. I mean, we don't have to belabor it. I think you gave him the NIL money. You went and got him. Kai Horton, I think, is a good player. I'm glad they kept him because I think that he showed flashes. But Ty Thompson was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He didn't, it didn't work out at Oregon because of some of the elite talent that it's not his fault that in the world we live in now with NIL and open transfer, they went and got Bo Nix. Now they went and got Gabriel. And they want more seasoned guys at Oregon because they are on the cusp of a national championship, and they didn't believe the way LSU believes in Nussmeier and Ty Thompson. That's concerning, but I think for Tulane, he's the guy. And if he's not the guy, then John Sumrall and his coaches in the Fear the Wave collective have made a massive mistake. But I don't think they have. I think they've got the right guy. I think they went last year and got the right guys in NIL. to kind of augment the roster they had with Pratt. They went and found the right guys. I think they found the right quarterback. And I know what they're saying, it's a battle. And everything's a competition. Life's a competition in everything. So I don't want to anoint Ty Thompson, but I remember talking to Ed Ogeron about this years in the past. They went and got Joe Burrow, and they didn't tell Joe Burrow, you're it, dude, you're the starter. They didn't name it until like the week before the season opener. But what they told Joe Burrow is, if you're everything we think you are, you're the guy. You're it. Like, we got Miles Brennan, we got some other guys here, but you're the guy. If you're as good as we think you are, and you should be, and he was, and we know what happened. I think Tulane did the same thing with Ty Thompson. If you're the guy that we think you are, it's your job.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a concern with this Tulane team. What is it?
I would say some of the playmakers they lost. I would say maybe depth. Like, I don't think they have a lot of wiggle room in the trenches. Like, I certainly think they are good. Like, they have, that's the one thing Willie Fritz did, and I think John Summerall has carried over. Forever, Tulane could not get elite talent in the trenches. They now are good in the trenches, but I think if they deal with any type of injury there, the talent level is going to drop off. So I think that they have a small margin for error, especially on the offensive line.
Right. Both LSU and Tulane have really stout backfields. Trey Holly now looks like his situation off the field has been resolved.
Yeah.
He'll be in camp with them, and of course Tulane again. They've got some really good backs as well.
Yeah, and again, I'll say this: I don't know if they have a back yet. That was one of the big questions for John Summerall: is who is our guy, so to say? Who is? I mean, we talked about that all last year. Is since Tajay Spears left, it was a little bit by committee almost last year.
Right.
And I still think this year, watching the spring game, I don't know if I want to call it by committee, but I still think they're going to be figuring out who is. And again, to try to say,
Hughes is not. You don't think Hughes?
I think he is. I think he's going in.
Right.
But I think last year, I think it took him a little while to land on him. And I think that this year, I think he goes in kind of as the guy, but I certainly think there's room for other players to potentially make their mark as well.
And in LSU, Caleb Jackson looks like he might be the guy there.
Yeah.
There's some strength there as well. When you look at both coaching staffs, again, Summerall comes in with a brand new coaching staff, and everything looks great at Tulane. The complete makeover of the defensive staff for LSU, again, they're banking on that.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about with Baker coming in.
Right.
I think he's a great coach.
Bo Davis.
Yeah, no, the whole thing. I mean, it reminds me of the Saints offense.
Right.
That, like, the Saints blew out the whole offensive coaching staff, Brian Kelly. And then Brian Kelly brought back guys that he got rid of from Ogeron's staff that maybe he shouldn't have gotten rid of. But I think that those two storylines are going to take these teams look, I think the Saints defense, even though they're aging, I still believe in them. And I still think Dennis is an elite coordinator. Can Kubiak get this offense right? Can Blake Baker get the LSU defense right? Because I believe in the offensive, not that he's some offensive mastermind, but I believe in what they're doing offensively and the players they have. I think that LSU's success will be predicated, obviously, on Baker and the defense. The Saints' success will be predicated on Kubiak and what he does with the offense.
Right, and Tulane's success will be?
On Ty Thompson.
I
mean, I think John Summerall's an amazing coach. I think he's got a great staff. I think what he's doing is fantastic. I just think that you got to have a great quarterback. Like, you got to. Or a really good quarterback. And I think that if Ty Thompson is that guy, Tulane's going to win that league. Now, if they missed, and again, there's a chance it could happen. I'm not saying Ty Thompson, there's no doubter. I mean, he's not a no doubter. But I think there's a strong belief that he's the guy. If they swung and missed and whiffed, then they've got some serious holes and questions, and they may not be very good.
Fletcher, thanks for your time today. Certainly appreciate it. Have a safe trip to Paris. Enjoy Paris and back home, and can't wait to see your coverage again on the upcoming Olympics.
All right, Eric. Thank you.
Fletcher Mackel, Sports Director at Channel 6 Sports here in New Orleans. All right, so many ways to catch our program now between Pelican Sports Television and, of course, again, the rebroadcast here at WLAE-TV, also the WLAE-TV YouTube page, and you catch all of our programming again at ericasher.com. Catch me on the radio, 106.1 The Ticket. That's 4 to 6 weekdays. Again, and also, again, you catch on the 106.1 The Ticket app, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, and of course all your digital platforms. I want to thank the folks here at WLAE-TV who make this show possible. Of course, our great underwriters who underwrite our program. Please support our underwriters. And again, thanks to all the folks here at WLAE who work on this program on a week in, week out basis. I'm Eric Asher for our folks here at WLAE and Fletcher Mackel. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
Once the chief had a message to send to the sun, so the chief gave the message to the eagle, who flew to the place in the sky where the sun lived. The sun was so pleased that she plucked a feather from the eagle's tail and kissed it, leaving a scorched spot. She gave the feather back to the eagle to take home to the Tunica people and told us to wear it always.
We have a promise from the sun. As long as there is the sun, there will be Indian people. As long as there are Indian people, we will have the medicine.